Craig's recording.
Hey, Craig. You motherfucker.
What's up, Craig?
Well,
I thought I had a pre-recorded track ready to go, but apparently I failed to save it.
imagine how all those showbiz people feel.
Yeah.
They don't have the freedom to admit their mistakes like you, Mumbles. Welcome back to Breaking Wind.
Pleasure to be here.
It's been a hot 15 minutes since we've gotten together.
Yes.
What's the behind the scenes at the Breaking Winds? There must be a lot of interesting tech talk.
A lot of interesting tech talk.
Yeah. Don't you think?
In whose department? My department or?
Well, the fart department.
Okay.
Yeah, the fart department. Yeah, what's going on? Last time we spoke, it was having a trouble with the router due to the weather conditions.
Yeah. I think we were alluding to some weather modification implications.
Yeah, so they created a storm over your router and flooded out your mud butt and knocked our connection loose. They're hot on our trail, and I think it's because the hard hitting topics that we don't shy away from. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they definitely hit my my area with the tornado the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roof fence sustained only minor damage, but none of the animals got out. But,
no kidding.
Definitely very drenched. Everything is saturated. So it's definitely soggy and muddy out there.
Which is good for the pigs.
Yeah, they enjoy it.
Have you rubbed any oil on their to address their hair loss issues lately, or?
I haven't. I probably haven't oiled them in about a week now. So,
all right, that's good.
The weather's getting a little better. Still, I think it was 34 degrees this morning. But yeah, it's still kind of shitty weather up here for the most part.
Well, that seems to be a common theme.
Yeah.
Up in Upper Mudsville. I wonder how they named that place.
Well, I'm not really sure.
It's a mystery. Well, that's the weather report. Hey, I was walking around and thinking, because something I was listening to, they'd gone back into the Wayback Machine addressing, popular media. I don't like the H word, but popular media mythology. And the name Weather Underground came up.
Yeah, the Clinton Foundation.
Well, perhaps, but I am in the habit now of hearing these phrases and not taking the immediate. Of course, immediately my memory goes to Weather Underground and the Clinton Foundation, and Weather Underground. It seemed like a statement, a declarative statement. The weather underground. I said, "Oh, eureka!" I mean, you bring up tornadoes and tornado alleys and things like that. I envisioned crystalline veins of piezoelectric activity, perhaps under the ground, that has a connection to the sky through the ether, through the accordion of mirrors. And things spin around and move through. It just seemed like a interesting thought.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to delve into these topics and modalities of thought. But yeah, I mean, what were you saying? What was your reference. So the weather is underground. You said weather underground is basically the electrical discharges, or what? What do you think that's going on underground? Do you think it's the atmospheric energy building up and then dissipating into the ground, or do you think the ground has its own electrical activity?
Well, there must be. I see in everything else a relationship with no clear beginning or end. So there must be a ever changing an exchange, yeah? Some sort of exchange. I don't know what to call things anymore. Ions or polarized states. So if there was a dense material, electric or dense material magnetic force that danced with the ethereal force based on pressure, maybe artificial or natural, artificial induced pressures could explain high winds,
Are you talking about
electrical activity.
artificial atmospheric pressures?
Not necessarily. I think exploitable for sure. These natural things seem to be exploitable. For example, I think you can interrupt the weather and perturb the weather, but I don't think you can create the weather. Yeah. Or you can mimic the weather by putting a big fart cloud up in the sky and then
Yeah, you could
saturating it. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get to. What is natural weather? I mean, is
Right.
there a natural weather phenomenon? Like
I know.
the wind, I think, is mostly like the an electromagnetic wind. You know, where we're just feeling the force of the EMF and the magnetic fields, and it's a living, moving thing. So
Yes.
they move around, and
I get that sense as well, yeah.
Yeah, and then you talk like we get into like HARP and the ionosphere, how they're able to basically create a bubble in the ionosphere to create a low pressure zone, I guess, to pull the high pressure into, to basically create
create it.
electrical
Exactly.
current.
Exactly.
But yeah, I definitely think there's some sort of activity beneath the surface that has direct correspondence to what's going on above the surface.
Seems obvious now that we're talking about it.
Yeah, I think I started painting a picture yesterday. Last week I started painting a picture. It took a unexpected turn yesterday when the two gay cowboys on horseback turned into like an eyeball type sun, with the prism, like the old Roy G. Biv color wheel, kind of feeding the back of the sun, and the other end of that is attached to our eyes. So it's like, I guess we could think of it as an umbilical cord, but we don't see it as an external thing because our vision is what makes the umbilical cord.
We're an integral part of the.
Yeah, it's like fiber optics,
It's exactly fiber optics.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fiber optic cable.
What you described at the end of the last short 15-minute breaking wind, which was an accordion of mirrors stretching. I don't know why that stuck with me. I got a little paranoid after that. Uh, I felt like you were sitting right next to me, but I was thinking that describes what I imagine fiber optics to be. And fiber optics is probably, a colorful story to explain something that's much simpler
Yeah.
and maybe actually not connected to optics or fiber at all. I go back and forth on these methods of uh, frequency transfer or energy transfer through the air for radio frequencies and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps they're just always there and always been there. There's efficient ways and inefficient ways of taking advantage of them. Sort of obviously, I would imagine. And then as you grow in knowledge and you research these things and you use tax dollars under the guise of exploring outer space, in a sense, you're not really lying if you're investing that money into the efficient transfer of information via the radio waves or television waves. I mean, what's really the difference? Do you know about these things?
Television versus radio.
Television versus radio versus the cell phone, the means of communication through the cell phone. Because I'm going off the assumption that satellites are not something that are up there doing stuff. And I happen to live in a highly concentrated area where I see on rooftops the development of different types of devices that appear to be devices that are supposed to transmit frequencies to your cell phone so you can talk to your nervous girlfriend when she wonders where you are. But perhaps this is also the root of GPS and maybe tying into what we're talking about with the manipulation of the winds and the ether to create current. And I don't know what I'm getting at here.
Well, I think the moisture in the sky has a direct correlation with the wavelengths.
Would moisture in tandem with particulates, perhaps? Would you need water itself alone won't transmit electricity? Yeah, if you
Sure.
add, it will.
Salt.
If you add salt to it, but I'm saying distilled water is not going to hold a current, will it? You need to add some kind of particulate or salt, dissolve something in it. So
it depends. It depends. I mean, if you're putting distilled water into a bath of say you have nickel cadmium, two dissimilar metals, and you put distilled water around them, you're going to induce a current. So
well, if I fill my bathtub up with distilled water and happen to throw my toaster in there,
yeah, I think you're still going to get electrocuted.
You think so? I don't know.
Electrocuted?
Do we have any volunteers? How many listeners do we have? Let's pick our favorite one. I'll tell you what. We'll just in the comments below, because we love comments. They're so encouraging.
Yeah.
They let us know that our voices are not falling completely flat. They're bouncing around in somebody's head. Anybody want to jump in? No, I guess it better not offer that. You can't do that nowadays, can you?
You can't. That
well, has anyone heard? Does anyone have any information on that?
I don't know.
I guess that doesn't matter.
I think with the nickel cadmium, I don't know if that's using water. I think the water might just be cooling the plates in that instance. But water is definitely has energy, stored energy in it, and I don't see why it wouldn't be able to conduct an electrical current just because it's has less impurities in it or zero impurities.
Well, the idea in my head was that it needed. Well, the water has a structure to it, but to have the current go through it, it's. I don't know where I'm getting this from. Distilled water. Well, here's the thing, man. There was the idea that the myth of people dropping the hairdryer into a bathtub didn't always electrocute them, and it was sort of a, what do you call it, urban legend. And there's hard water and there's soft water and distilled water, and each one would drive. Like, for example, I have a ppm meter. What is that? A parts per million meter. It doesn't tell you much about the water, but it tells you the solids per.
Yeah, parts per million.
Parts per million in there. My tap water is pretty high parts per million, and when I distill it, it's 0 parts per million.
So, I mean, you're definitely going to, change the flow of current, but I don't think you can stop the flow of current.
Okay, well, I guess maybe it's not a all or nothing sort of thing, but adjusting the efficiency of the flow of the current, taking that and expanding it out into the upper atmosphere or the sky or the ether, whatever we want to call it, perhaps there's some value to putting current in the air in long lines even, or in flat shields to either absorb current and absorb electrical charge and perhaps transfer it somewhere else for I don't know, something.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're gonna bring the electrical activity over a spot where you want some sort of production to take place.
Yeah.
Or bring the electrical cloud to Silicon Valley so they could think up the next great thing, and
Yeah, I'd buy stock in that.
yeah, keep that kind of like a plume. I don't know if you saw that video that I was talking about, or I don't know if I even said anything. The about wearing silly hats. Like why did Jews have these big hats that they walk around with?
Yeah, they get all the good hats. That's right.
I think they're like trying to create some sort of electrical plume under their cap and keep that
Parabolic mirror looks a lot like a yarmulke.
Yeah,
don't it?
I was thinking about the yarmulke the other day, and
it's hard not to.
Maybe they're hiding something under there.
Sure. You seen Silence of the Lambs? What happened to Ray Liotta?
Time.
You don't know?
I don't remember. I probably saw that movie when it first came out.
I don't like referencing movies. Well, it wasn't the first one. It was one of the later ones when the main character, the cannibal, as a matter of fact, there's the tie-in. The cannibal, Hannibal the cannibal. He was having a dinner party with some guests. I can't remember how in fact this character got a group of people to come over to his house, but he was serving them a meal, and there it was this big build up, and then fast forward, spoiler alert, he had taken the guest of honor's head and hacked it open somehow, I guess in some sort of drunk or drugged state.
Yeah.
Taking some kind of medical saw and taking the cap of his skull off the top, and was taking slices of Ray Liotta's brain and feeding it to him.
Yeah.
I'm regretting bringing this up.
Well, you could
Um,
medically you can do that. That's possible.
yeah, medically. I mean, medical science is
Like the top of your skull really serves no purpose other than a lid.
well, there you go. So, if you lift up a yarmulke, you
Yeah.
might you
Well,
might
you
find
either
something.
see
You might find some tasty treats in there. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
some spongy form.
If you get stuck in traffic and you're desperate,
Well, I was also thinking like maybe there's like one of them, Avatar tails. Maybe like that might be where they're hiding you know, their their plant, for like getting plugged into the system. Like
oh yeah, that
get their
would
direct upload and download.
the avatar tail. I don't know what an avatar tail is, but is that like a cord or a plug?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like I don't remember if it was coming off their head, it was like their tail
Oh,
or something. But it's like basically an umbilical cord that they copulate with and
good lord!
connect back to the I guess the soil,
The,
or,
the soil.
well, wherever they live. I don't want to say Earth. I mean, I think that whole movie was basically our past, just kind of told to us in a clever way.
Oh, I guess I haven't seen. Which movie is this?
I'm talking about Avatar.
Oh.
When we used to be blue like Smurfs.
Yeah, that
We lived
I
breathe.
kind of clocked out of society at that point. Things started because I rem, well, I just remember the conversation of people. I was forced to be around people at a certain capacity, and there was a lot of talk of how sexy the blue avatar was, or something
Oh yeah.
like that. And I did, and then that was kind of the camel backbreaker for me. I
Mm.
said I have to clock out. I can't. I hadn't consumed movies or television in a while, but I was still able to hold court with my fellow man. But that I was like, you know what? Honestly, I never saw The Matrix. I don't use the word, well, except for just now, the word Matrix.
Mm.
It seems to be just one of those things that's just ramrodded too hard down the goose's throat, and it's become such, it's these things, we regurgitate them, we say them, we cast our spells,
Yeah.
and luckily, I don't know, I'm patting myself on the back right now for not getting a boner for the Avatar tale. But I hear what you're saying. The idea, God, man, they really separate us from. They create this ego, and then they bifurcate the ego and partition that into different personalities.
Yeah.
It really gets bananas here. No wonder this. I mean, this is why people tune into the Breaking Wind.
That's what keeps it exciting.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
If we didn't,
never ends.
if we didn't have this plethora, decisions and all sorts of different things, but it would be a pretty bland place to live.
Yeah, and we'd be able to keep our own energy.
Well,
And who knows what we would do then?
I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Because I've been working on a new kind of, I don't know, conceptualization that we're basically slaves to planet Earth, or slaves to Mother Nature, and we're kind of stuck in this, and it is indeed a prison, prison.
Hmm.
I believe that
Sort of.
I think the light is being projected from inside out. So anything visible is coming from within, and Mother Nature is basically draining or receiving all of their color, all of the color from the human, before it gets collected, into the backside of the sun, and repurposed to basically put
Do it
out some
again.
BTUs and help the plants grow, so they could basically drain us of our color.
Well, I liked your earlier theory of two gay cowboys on a horse.
Well, I let me retract that. They were unicorns. I did make them.
Well, I don't like
I did
that
make
as much.
to turn them into unicorns. Yeah.
Well, these things all seem to hold an element of familiarity, and that yeah, being good stewards of the land and this sort of thing. A lot of things popped into my head. One being, I never like to reference movies, but there was a movie from Shyamalan guy, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And it had something to do with the earth, the trees, the wind would start blowing, people would start killing themselves. They'd get these suicidal urges,
Right.
when the wind would start blowing, and it was as if the trees and the plants, the botanical, the foliage was communicating to drive the humans mad into killing themselves. Which there's all kinds of things you can take from that. And then a video you made recently, which is, who's to say that the trees are not creating the wind and themselves?
Yeah, that's creating the wind,
Yeah. Well,
all those vibrations at once. I think that would add up to do some pretty powerful stuff.
you would think so. And they've been around quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're rather stoic creatures.
Yeah.
With quite a bit of patience.
Yeah.
Not really busy schedules.
No.
So, idle minds are the play shop of the devil. Yeah, and then, sure. Why not? Why not? And do you think that's why we've gone green crazy?
Well, it could
throughout
be
the popular culture.
It could be that Mother Nature is in a self preservation. Is telling us to act a certain way. Yeah. Like what we were talking about
symbiosis
the other day with the what was I going to say? What were we talking about the other day?
Well, we covered a myriad of topics.
Yeah.
The other day, talking about trees, gay cowboy unicorns, pulling the facets apart from a diamond into the umbilical cords.
Yes.
Ingesting semen.
All that.
As a scare tactic to defeat your enemy and rape his women and take his land.
The part about original origins, and where those thoughts come.
Oh, the original thoughts, sure, yeah.
And we were also talking about, electrical activity above and below the surface. And I'm likening the activity below the surface as well as the activity above. I guess it's just a reflection below, as the neural activities, like in our brains. Like if you ever look at a brain, and they what do? They hook it up to that what is it, an EKG or something, where you can see
something like that,
where you see all the neurons firing and all that.
Yeah.
I think it's
following.
I think it's kind of like that. And then, the gray matter. It's
I see.
in our brain is basically the same as the gray sky. Because
Oof.
the blue is it's really just a variation of gray. It's like a kind of like a blue smoke. If you're into any
Sure.
Leonardo da Vinci, he kind of summarized it a lot. How you get the fine blue only because of the darkness beyond it.
All right. There's a lot to chew on. That's a big sandwich.
Yeah, it's definitely a big shit sandwich. And we're caught in the middle, somewhere between being devoured by the sun and shitting Earth to fertilize it.
Stuck in the middle with you.
Yeah. So we're tilling the gardens, and we are the food for the Earth, basically. And,
I think that's a healthy way of looking at it.
yeah.
That would cause a fair bit of indigestion. In mixed company, you might call breaking wind.
Mm-hmm.
And life will express itself in these patterns. For example, breathing, the inhaling and the exhaling. I see this reflected in a lot of ways in the, I don't know what you would call the macroscope, but you mentioned something last crapisode about bones being crystalline, or humans being crystalline instead of cellular. And I was thinking of bones being crystalline after we had, moved on. And I was drifting off that night, and I said, well, where can I start with that idea? Because there must be, part of us must be crystalline.
Yeah.
And so what part could I was like, oh, bones. Now we're going back to, Ray Liotta's head and Yarmulke's and Avatar Tales and plugging in.
Yeah.
And, parabolic mirrors and parabolic lensing and gray matter in the sky. It's, and well, this has definitely been thrown into the flat Earth lexicon, the dome. Bouncing things off of it. That's part of the modern mythology too. Is we're bouncing not off a physical dome or a metallic dome, but an ionosphere or something like that. You scale that down. Maybe we're shooting stuff. We're just shooting stuff inside of our heads at our domes, and that's part of the. Boy, that's part of a good episode. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
We're feeding off of ourselves. This cannibalistic thing, trying to tie back into there as well.
Well, yeah, we're definitely eating the way you got it. If we're gonna eat, consume.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Mumbles.
I said if we're gonna eat anything, I think it's we're basically consuming which approach you take, whether it's plant-based, paleo, or whatever.
Yes.
You're still consuming yourself to some degree because you're part of this earth.
Well, more and more I'm being led to the quote-unquote ancient mythology of the giant turtle with the 4 elephants standing on it. It doesn't seem so ridiculous anymore.
No, it doesn't seem ridiculous at all. Into comparison.
Yeah. What else do you have?
That we're spinning on a ball, traveling through who knows what, an infinite cosmos. I think these are all just allegorical descriptions for what's really going on. The spheres of consciousness.
Well, I think even more than that, it's a mathematical madness where the science we have is
I guess Retardica cut out.
Into
There you
just
are.
the inner. No,
Okay.
I'm here. You were cutting out too. I guess they didn't like that talk about yarmulkes.
No, they did not.
Or maybe it was the gay cowboys that left a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah.
You never can tell. But I was really enjoying the sound of my own voice. Where were we? Where was I?
Well, we were talking.
Mathematical.
Yeah.
Taking the action at one point. Let's just use the Freemasonic and Guild and the Catholic governing structure to define the physical realities enough to domesticate a population and keep an economic structure going, metastasizing into where we are now, where it's kind of the wheels have fallen off the cart, but there's no stopping this fucker. It's gone into pure speculation, imagination through justified number manipulation, but so many generations have passed and folded in on themselves that the occupations and the modern mythology are generated at such a pace that it's just pure speculation and cartoonism, and that can be reverse engineered mathematically and justified to go to the next step. But there's no connection. There's no umbilical. The umbilical cord is cut. It's just a complete mental psychosis in free fall, which is kind of exciting. If you, to quote Mumbles' undertone, if you don't let it get to you. But trying to maintain some level of sanity in an open air, free range insane asylum is proving a bit stressful, for just speaking for myself.
Yeah, it is stressful, but I think the best thing to take from any of this, we're actually in control of the ship, I believe.
Okay.
Which it's all imagination driven. So, like I was saying, that the light's originating from inside our heads and being projected outward. So whatever you can conceptualize in your mind, it can become a reality.
Well, yeah, that's almost damn near
the sun.
Hmm?
On the path to the sun, because all of these things coming out are feeding the sun, and in turn the sun is feeding us back. So
I'm trying to tie all that together into a working thing that I can comment on.
Well,
I'm not lost at sea on that one at all. But piecing it, like materializing it in my imagination. There's so many interesting questions, because the light is emanating from a human being.
Yes. To be or not to be.
That's a good question.
Well, that's just it. So,
that's it.
To be is,
for Christ's sake, you've done it again. That really is it.
But what I'm getting likens to the philosophy of art by Hegel. We're talking about a lot of talk of on the spheres of rational force, and I think that ties into the spheres of consciousness. And
We're losing the important words. If you could adjust your waddle.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's wiggle the waddle. Hang on, I gotta wiggle my waddle. Just... Alright. How's this? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could.
Am I cutting out? You're cutting out like...
A little bit. A little bit, because I think it's my connection, my power disruption, you know, and the router has been on Fritz.
The Fritz...
on the So I'm likening this to Hegel's philosophy of art. And I just want to read a few bits and pieces of the book here.
For the audience, including me, whom is Hegel?
Well, he's a philosopher, a German philosopher from, I don't know, 70 to 1831.
So, the 1731s is?
1770 to 1831.
All right. So somewhere in the past.
Somewhere in this past.
And he wrote.
He wrote a few works, but I'm referring to the philosophy of art. And I believe that he was referencing the sun every time he was talking about art.
Go for it.
For the beauty of art is beauty that is born and born again of the spirit, and as the spirit with its production stands higher than their phenomena, so does also the beauty of art stand higher than the beauty of nature. And when looked at essentially and objectively, although an external object as the sun, for instance, may appear to be an absolutely necessary fact, whereas a fanciful idea vanishes in accidental and transitory appearance, yet such a natural existence as that of the sun, when taken by itself, is without freedom and self-consciousness and is indifferent of itself to all else. So, I don't know if that reads what I wanted it to read. But we're talking about aesthetics, and what aesthetics is basically science and feeling. Okay, so
again, the aesthetics is science.
Aesthetics is the science of sensation and feeling.
These damn mudbud floods take out all the important words. Let me try a different hat.
Aesthetics is the science of sensation.
It's almost comical that every time the same part of the same word that I want to hear
Feeling? Let me
is
read it backwards. Feeling and sensation, science of the aesthetics. All right, so I don't know if Craig is with me. At least maybe he can follow.
Craig. What's up, Craig?
The beautiful in art is admitted, moves, indeed, as a friendly genius through all the affairs of life and brightly adorns all its surroundings. It softens the clarity of earnest relations and relieves the pressure of the complications of the real world. And
lot
in
of
all other spheres, it's also effective in mingling and pleasing forms with truly real things. Um,
There's a lot of poetry in here, and I love it.
oh, well, Hegel's very poetic.
Aesthetics being a visual poetry,
It is a visual.
and the interpretation of the artist, even as an artist yourself and myself, a lot of times the imagery in our imaginations certainly don't express themselves in the aesthetic way that we had planned, but
No.
perhaps we're so it's so ingrained in us to be logical and mathematically well, like I said, we're in a mathematical conceptual free fall of sorts. Perhaps the artistic mind enjoys this aesthetic freedom that's a more natural expression to our self-cannibalizing goddess mother of
Yeah.
earth death. Anyway, Hegel,
Yes.
tell me more.
From such consideration, it appeared necessary to take beautiful arts into protection when the admission was once made that they are a kind of luxury.
Mm.
I'm just taking the word lux out of luxury, which lux is.
Yes, you are.
Um, let's see here. This has been done more particularly in reference to the question of their practical necessity and their relation to morality and pity. And as their harmlessness could not be absolutely proved from themselves, the attempt was made to make it credible that this spiritual luxury yielded a larger sum of advantages than disadvantages. In this way, earnest purpose has been ascribed to art itself, and it has frequently been recommended as a mediator between reason and sense. So, art is the mediator between reason and sense.
May I interject, Dr. Hegel?
Sure.
Art, whether we recognize it or not, is the foundation of all propaganda. And the utilization of Dr. Hegel's interpretation of art or description of art, the power of the aesthetic, stands to reason that many hundreds of years ago, a guild of craftsmen shaping stained glass and cathedrals, and once you have a printing press and you can craft stories and pair them with paintings and drawings and lithographs, and then as time advances and technology allows, photographs and audio through radio and moving imagery, and you can follow the power of what Dr. Hegel is expressing here and how we are immersed in a culture that is based on these aesthetics and our reaction to them.
Well, if you take it, I agree, and I think he's correct. But I'm trying to lift the veil on this, if you will, and liken it to the other situation I outlined about, you know, our minds basically projecting this manifest reality and feeding it into the back of the sun, which, you know.
Now, as an individual, does the individual, in a holographic sense, does the individual hold as much power as the group, or is it a rule by majority sort of situation in your thinking? Can an individual imagination create have any substantial effect on.
No, I don't think there is any. I think it's gets back to the wavelengths and who's riding the wave, and that perspective of that point of the wave. So we're all tuning into 432 hertz today, and we're all riding that same, getting that same image from the fiber optic, cable in our brain, and we're just looking at it all from different perspectives, based on our mental conditions and our, upbringing and our programming.
Can you imagine if you were born with this sort of idea, being how do you explain it? Like educated in this sort of sense? Imagine if you were comfortable with this. Like there's a certainly for most people there's a leap of faith into going and allowing their imaginations to go here and hear it breaking wind. We encourage people to do that, and
the imagination is bee's knees.
Yeah, man. And so digesting this is really fun, man, because I don't have any expectation that I'm going to be able to do anything practical with it. But I love the analysis, and
I think
getting
the practical application, I think, will come later. I don't think there is any practical application for this stuff just yet.
I mean, individually, even though the individual may not, maybe that's just a conceptual idea as well. But I feel like this packet of energy, maybe that's just my ego fucking with me.
Yeah, again, I don't think there's any individuality in that regards of implementation of this information. Oh wow, look at this fucking spider walking. That's a big spider.
That's the last we heard.
Never to be heard from again.
I wish there were
robotic Jew spider.
I like to imagine an owl riding the back of a giant animatronic spider, holding a slice of pizza in each arm.
Yeah. But getting back to the thought, I think we're creating this situation for ourselves.
So what is we?
We don't need to implement anything. I mean, once you, I think once you become, in tune to this information, then all the ego-driven stuff is just gonna melt away, and there is no drive. There's nowhere to go. There's what's the rush?
No, I understand. I understand that, but on the ride,
go ahead.
Like along the ride here, from, well, I don't know what you would call it. I guess can't get hung up too much in the language here, but from point A to point B, or from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, of what perception I seem to have, it certainly takes a lot of the pressure off to like embrace these ideas and sort of watch it flow without expectation. The idea that life, obviously, well, to me, it's apparent that life persists, and that's just the end of the sentence. The life just persists. And the search of a purpose seems to be sort of a thankless task and a fruitless endeavor and a wild goose chase. And getting a lay of the land is certainly useful. Modeling a map of the of your reality, your perspective on the situation, even were I not to perceive myself as an individual and just sort of lay back and into the warm embrace of the flow. It's at each step. It's liberating and empowering at the same time, in the sense that a lot of the worries I had prior seem to disappear. But then, right when I say that, there's an immediate irritation that sort of jolts me out of that state of mind. And watching yourself through your own journey and going back at what your memory allows you to recollect, you can really pull like when I remember things, I'm certain I'm not remembering what actually took place. Even looking back on my family situation, I'm a lot more forgiving with my parents' behavior, even though by any measure it was pretty atrocious. But I can see what a shit show we're immersed in, and I think ideas like this make me a lot more less reactive to what I'm seeing, because none of this shit really seems to matter from any perspective. I can't find anything that people are talking about or interested in or analyzing. Even the media analysts that have become so popular, it seems just like another dead end sticky paper fly trap for the free fall illusionists to take advantage of and steer to their whatever their advantage is. And it just dissuades us from getting into the Mumbles Hegel state of mind. So after all of that word salad,
yes,
how do you navigate your life as it is right now?
I my pants.
Again, the most important word was cut out. So we just have to imagine what happens to your pants. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'm going to give myself 3 choices, which is you put your pants on one leg at a time, or you shit your pants, or I've lost my pants. I'm going to go with your shitting your pants.
I live by the seam of my pants, I suppose.
Damn it. I didn't see that one. That wasn't on the Scantron.
No, that was all.
Living by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Now, who invented these pants anyway?
Well, these are the traveling pants from the Ya Sisterhood.
God damn it. They get us from every angle. Goddamn women. Which is peculiar.
Because trying to expose the hidden patriarchy that we're living under.
Good luck with that, buddy. Well, there's a big vagina to worship out there.
It certainly is.
And it's pretty misleading if you obscure that vagina with a mustache and a top hat. But it must have some sort of effect.
Yeah.
And I can see the revealing of this, and I'm not interested in getting rope-a-doped into any more belief systems. But it certainly is curious that there's the Mother Earth and the goddess worship and the bender of the gender of Olympic champions that I grew up with. And the strange overlap with the stories of the constellations and the undeniable repetitive nature of these stories seems to just shield and cloak those who deserve the biggest kick in the dick. And it's irritating when you can see it and there's no one to kill.
Yeah. Well.
But that's just the individual talking.
Well, I think that gets back to the old kill the Buddha.
Yeah, which goes back to killing yourself and be reborn, die daily.
Yeah.
Eat my meat. Yeah? What about picking boogers?
Yeah, what about...
We seem repulsed by it, yet most of us have done and continue to do it.
And it's been shown to do nothing but strengthen the immune system.
Yeah. Well, there we go. We just take whoever promoted kale 15 years ago and we hand them boogers and see what they can do with that.
Well, that's,
you know?
Yeah, it's all about the sales pitch.
It certainly is. And if you don't buy the sales pitch, no matter how illogical, given 2 or 3 generations, if you're not on board, we'll make you illegal, put you in prison, or kill you.
Right. Or package it in a different package and call it something different. Then
God damn. You know what I'll call it? Truth.
Yeah.
I'll just call it truth. These dirty motherfuckers, their game is so good. And
it's, yeah.
I mean, they've been doing this a good long while.
Yep.
I'm looking at the sky. A good long while. I'm looking at the sky now, and I don't know if wispy. It's a wispy, fuzzy whiteness that's separating itself in a eerily flat blue sky. This whiteness is separating itself into what I imagine to be a standing wave.
Yeah.
Do you know a standing wave?
Yeah.
I wonder if this is my cannibalistic mother goddess earth frequencies, or the earth goddess frequencies being perturbed by a local NextRad station charged with the duty of forecasting quote-unquote weather, when in fact maybe I'm watching the weather be forecasted right in front of my very eyes. Do I have anything to fear other than I don't get much sunshine anymore like I used to in the sky?
Well,
what is going on?
There's there's nothing.
Mumbles, where are you?
I'm here.
You are living by the seat of your pants.
I said there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yeah, a woman in a top hat and a monocle told me that once.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's a good thing to say to an animal before you slit its throat.
Yeah. But I don't know. What were your...
Well, I guess just generally, in short, what the
Yeah,
fuck? What the fuck is going? What the fuck, man? I got 40 some odd years in this game.
yeah.
In earnest, I'm not a violent person, and I've made plenty of violent mistakes. But I find myself just looking around, not really looking for an explanation. But the question just keeps coming up every day I wake up. What the fuck? It just persists. What the fuck? What the fuck? And I don't really expect an answer, but I'm asking you, what the fuck?
Well, there's definitely an eternal
Your
one that
router.
that question stands the test of time.
Mm.
It's an eternal question.
I guess that's where the Bible comes from. Is like a group of motherfuckers sat down and said, "All right, we're gonna try and sum up exactly what the fuck."
Well, no, I don't think that's what the Bible is either.
I know. I
I
just
think,
like stirring that up.
yeah, well, I think I kind of trying to get away from the whole thought process, and
Well,
just be instinctive, and I guess that's the animalistic side. But I see animals. I watch animals all day, and a lot of what they do is a lot more civilized than what humans do, um, up to and including eating shit.
yeah, a lot of your videos include shit eating.
Yeah, but like in my instance, I have you know uh, donkeys and goats and pigs and sheep and ducks and chickens. And they all hang out all day together. It's like no,
Race wars.
there's no race wars or none of that. There's no
I hear you.
bickering. They're not talking about these mundane things about what's going on around. They're just
Oh,
they're just plugged into it, and I don't know
yeah.
if that's
Could be.
if
Could be.
that's uh,
So that's the fuck.
if they're just closer to the Earth's resonant frequency because they're always outside, and they're just always grounded in a sense.
They don't wear pants.
No, they don't have soles on their feet either. So
Mm-hmm.
they're
Yep.
pretty well grounded, and they have no need to search for any externality. Just
Um,
they graze and they eat the food, and then they poop to fertilize the ground to grow the grass that basically drains the human of his color, and the animals drain the human of his wealth. And,
oh well, you can't blame a man in this day and age for asking.
no, I don't. I think
Um,
I circumvent the question altogether.
well,
Uh,
beautifully done. I think it's reading all of that Hegel,
yeah, I barely got into it.
but every other word cut out. So in a sense, the poetry that you created on this end a whole nother
A whole different type of poetry.
it went from iambic pentameter to tardbatic ramtacular, and it struck a chord with me. So there was an aesthetic there.
Maybe Craig got the whole gist of it. I don't know.
It's hard to say, but it is. I have to say, listening to these is pretty fun. And if I was somebody else, this is what I would listen to. In fact, this is pretty much all I listen to. is because every time I listen to it, something else new pops up, and I think, oh, next time I'll talk about that, and that never happens. But
Yeah.
We're gonna continue to do this, I assume, and there's gonna have to be a place to put these things.
Well, we don't need to dwell. We don't need to dwell on any one thought. I mean, that's why I was trying to.
No, not at all. I don't
like touch and go, and
No. That my
like
point is,
just be like the wind.
My point is, as we break these winds, they may have no physical reality, yet they require storage. Where are we going to put these things that people can find them? Is there going to be a channel update?
Well, yes, I believe to take the first one off YouTube. No more computers. Carpet out from under my viewers' feet.
Yes.
Put the old breaking wind wet blanket.
Immerse them in a new reality.
Yeah. Change the stage.
Well, that is a maniacal move rooted in egotism, and I applaud it.
Well, I'll try to make it worthwhile by trying to convey the point that I set out to convey. And to do that, I'm going to finish up with some Hegel.
Hit it.
Hopefully, I don't cut out every other.
Well, you need to stand on a different pig.
The true reality is found beyond and above the immediate experiences of sensation and external objects. For what is truly real is only what has being in itself and for itself, and this must be what is substantial both in nature and mind. Such substantial being is indeed presented as appearing in experience, but in this form of existence it continues to maintain its own essential being, and only thus is it truly real. The domination of the universal powers that are involved in all being is just what art emphasizes and shows. To continue, the hard rind of nature and the common world make it more difficult for the spirit of man to penetrate through them to the eternal and absolute idea than through works of art. So that last sentence, I think he's referring to the works of art as a portal, and we can liken that to being a portal, driving, flying through the center of the sun.
We can liken that to the sun as a portal. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. That's good stuff, because that word sun is interchangeable with the other word sun, and that allegory is used a lot.
Yeah.
And for good or ill, who knows? But again, it's all up to the interpretation of whoever's reading it or listening to it. This is groovy stuff, man.
Yeah. He goes to say, art constitutes the highest mode of becoming conscious of the absolute. Thought and reflection have thus soared above the beauty of art, where there is an inclination to take delight in blame and complaint. This fact may be represented as a sign of degeneracy and ascribed to the predominance of selfish interests and passion, which scare away from art its earnestness as well as its cheerfulness.
I love that.
The soul is entangled in the petty interests of time and cannot rise with freedom to the highest purpose of art.
You just answered a question that I had through those words, which was, we can tell that art, look at what is offered to us as art in our arts classes, there's painting and there's music and there's dance, and it's compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask, what's going on there, and the word time sums it all up. It compartmentalizes it, and what is it when you break something down into increments of measurement? Compartmentalizes it, whatever. Commodified. It's commodified.
Delineate.
Yeah.
Delineation.
And that seems to be what's been taken to the extreme here, where, like when, what?
Well, he explained that art is dead, and basically, the revival of is going to come with the intuitive drive to just create art. And by creating art, we're going to basically create our own intelligence from art. Is Retardica still there? Even the producing artist himself is too often infected and misled by the reflection growing everywhere, more articulate around him, and by the universal habit of criticizing and judging about art. The free power of thought rises itself in knowledge above the things of the present world which belong to sensible reality and finitude. The spirit further advances to the conception of a breach or separation between its two worlds of conception, and it discovers with the same insight how this breach has to be healed. Forthwith, then, it produces out of itself the works of beautiful art as the first reconciling medium between the opposition of the two sides, and thus they rise into being as mediators between what is merely external, sensible, perishing, and what is of pure thought, between mere nature of finite reality and the infinite freedom of the thinking that comprehends.